Hello, and welcome to Simple Blind Luck. I am Blind Luck, and I'll be your guide dog on our little adventure. Sorry about that. Just to give a quick recap on the last installment of Becoming Blind Luck, I had a dirty little secret. The nurses, when they came in the morning and did their morning little routine and everything, when they left, they had neglected to lock my bedroll back up. So I was actually free to attempt to try to get out of the bed and walk. Now, thankfully, I was about as smart as you could be when doing something so incredibly stupid, and I didn't severely injure myself. But it turns out that when there's a whole bunch of medical professionals that have gone to school for many years and been practicing their trade for many years, they actually know a little bit more than what some dumb kid in the hospital thinks they do. But thankfully, I didn't injure myself and set myself back months on my recovery. So now, up to speed, I actually have, around this time, was a new therapy start. And it was both good and bad. And what it involved was the therapist coming and putting that famed bedroll down, and they would put this little plastic board diagonally on it, and then I would get on that board and do a little slide into a wheelchair. And then they would basically direct me as I used my own arms to push myself around the hospital. And this did a couple of things. One, it was way more difficult than I would have imagined, which, prior to the wreck, I had done weightlifting in high school, and I kept it up a bit afterwards. And then I also typically had very physically demanding jobs, so I was in relatively good shape. And then pushing myself around in that wheelchair showed me just how fast your muscles will atrophy when you're just laying in a hospital bed and doing nothing. So it was both extremely difficult but helpful, because it was helping to build me back up. It was also difficult because obviously if you're blind and pushing yourself in a wheelchair, you are having to make constant corrections. You're like, being blind and on wheels is a very bad combination, because it's really hard to judge speed and distance because you don't really have a reference point at all. So I would do that and go around, and it was draining, but it was also sort of good because I felt like I was doing something and making progress. And after my failed attempt in the previous episode to stand, I sort of came to a realization that, okay, I really need to listen to these professionals. At the same time, I am going to redouble my efforts in what they do tell me so that I can build myself back up. I was very determined that I would, in fact, be walking again. I made a promise to myself that I was going to walk out of that hospital, but I had a long road ahead of me. Now, that the pushing myself around the hospital in the wheelchair wasn't really the bad part. Believe it or not, the bad part came when we were done. Because I would get back to my room, and then the therapist would position my wheelchair so that I was a good 5 feet away from the bed. So they knew I wasn't going to be able to just reach over and try to drag myself back in bed. They'd make sure it was out of reach, and then they would lock the wheelchair down, and it wasn't going to be moving. Now, they would turn the TV on. And the point of it was, I presume, because my hips were broken, it was to help build those muscles back up. And man, you don't realize all the muscle groups you use just to sit up in a chair, all the tiny little muscles that get used for balance. And I suppose because I had recently broken them, that it was like just extreme agony sitting there. Like I would be sitting there for roughly 15 to 45 minutes, and the entire time I could not tell you what was on that TV at all. I was just in constant pain from my hips, and I can neither confirm nor deny that there might have been a little bit of those manly beads of perspiration coming back from a previous episode during that time. There may have, there may not, I don't know. But man, it was so difficult just simply sitting in that wheelchair. Another fun little note is there were several times during that therapy that the wheelchair, they just so happened to grab for me to go on my little excursions, actually had flat tires. And you know, I didn't really think much of it then, but when I look back on it, I kind of think that wasn't happenstance. I kind of think they actually keep a wheelchair that's tires are deflated solely for that purpose, to make it harder for you to push yourself around in it, because it will, you know, give you a much more effective workout than if the tires were inflated. But I was mobile now, somewhat, so that was really good. There obviously is much more work to still be made. I will pause here for today. And today's on the bright side is, yeah, I'm blind. But you know what? On the bright side, if I'm going to a haunted house and they suddenly kill the lights, doesn't really bother or scare me one bit. And with that, I'll hear you later.